Update 082 is here with overhauled blend modes, modding upgrades and more. We are the Funkin GitHub club, and let's get right into it. Multiple blend modes have been added into the game, such as color dodge, color burn, soft light, exclusion, hue, saturation, color, luminosity, and invert, as well as some of them being fixed. That includes overlay, hard light, darken, lighten, and difference. The chart editor events now give you a preview graph for each easing type. You can now mirror nodes in the chart editor by either using Ctrl-Shift-M to mirror nodes along the x-axis, Ctrl-Alt-M to mirror nodes along the y-axis, or Ctrl-Shift-Alt-M to mirror nodes along the x and y-axis. The stage editor now includes multiple selection improvements, such as there is now a deselection button. Current selection text no longer appears while hovering over UI or testing the stage. This update brings a few changes, so let's bring our eyes upon them. Week 2 Spooky Mansion stage background has been optimized by using a texture atlas. The set camera bob event now supports decimal values for rate and offset at 0.25 precision. This update is also full of bug fixes, so let's look at them. Several game assets have been re-exported to fix some issues related to them, including all variations of Pico were re-exported as texture atlases to optimize memory usage. Pico Blazin's game over retry animation now properly displays its blend modes. The running Tankman in Stress Pico mix no longer tanked the game's performance. Daddy Dearest now properly holds his up pose. Monster Christmas Hat no longer moves when he holds a pose. Darnell's Can in Too Hot now shows the sparkling effects. Selecting a song using touch controls when a keyboard is connected no longer disables the keyboard's strumline layout. The chart editor no longer crashes when holding Control and clicking on a hold note trail. The chart editor save dialog windows no longer freeze the game. Modded difficulty dots and graphics now render correctly in freeplay. Freeplay capsules with long song names no longer displayed too far to the left during the new rank animation. Freeplay capsules BPM values ending in 1 now display with proper spacing. The Freeplay pixel icon now properly plays its confirm animation when mashing the song capsule. Scrolling with the mouse now works properly in story mode and Freeplay on the web build of the game. Character select loading times have been improved by disabling a fade shader when unused. The character select locks now play the reject animation when tapping on them on mobile devices. Hold note covers now follow the strumline when the strumline's position is modified. The game over camera focus point is now consistent regardless of which animation was previously playing. Game over fade now uses retro camera fade with all pixel characters, just like it does with Boyfriend. You can no longer exit the game over state via a back button during the Boyfriend's fake out death animation on mobile devices. The volume sound tray is no longer covered during the sticker transition. The city lights in the Week 3 stages now show up properly in the web build of the game. The Week 3 Pico Doppelganger cutscenes now played the correct background music. Darnell's Can sound effects in Too Hot no longer played twice with high offsets or when lagging. The pie used to skip footage in the track state no longer bounces when spamming the skip button. The screenshot preview no longer breaks when changing states. Chart editor tooltips no longer appear when hovering over a deleted node or event. Chart editor waveforms now render more accurately after BPM changes in the song. The chart editor vocal waveforms and health icons now display in the proper position regardless of the game's aspect ratio. The second section number and divider now render consistently in the chart editor. The game no longer crashes when trying to close it while being in the stage editor. This update brings many changes to modding with upgrades to the Polymod library, so let's cover them. Calling the superclass now allows using as many arguments as necessary. This means that, for instance, creating a custom node kind before wouldn't register parameters specified in the supercall. However, now everything is registered correctly. To go along with the previous change, every function can now be called with as many arguments as needed. Before, if you tried to make more than 8 arguments in a function, you would receive a script error. However, now this issue no longer persists and you can add as many arguments as you please. Scripted classes can now extend other scripted classes. Let's take this code snippet for example. We now have the ability to use it as a baseline for another class, where we can freely modify or override its variables. As you can see in this example code, when you create our new Spectre object, Polymod successfully tracks properties from both the parent and the child classes. In addition to the previous change, scripted classes can now also not extend anything. Variables no longer get dropped when entering a local function. Let's take this script as an example. Previously, once you defined or entered a local function, that variable would lose its value, causing the next trace to cause an error. Now this is no longer an issue, and entering a local function, the variables won't get dropped early. Scripted classes were given 2 functions to check if a field with a specific name exists, script has and script static has. Scripted enums now support multiple arguments. Let's take the scripted enum as an example. In previous versions, we could only use these simple fields. If we tried to include additional arguments, we would get a script error. In this update, it is now possible to have multiple arguments in enum fields. The is operator has had its priority moved to the top to match the hex behavior. Previously, functions that derive from classes added with using and were used in a static context would throw a script error. However, now it works without any issues. Previously, if you wanted to combine strings and variables, you would have to do whatever this is, but now you have the support for a cleaner combination of strings and values using string interpolation. The function init to initialize scripted classes has been renamed to scriptInit, now with the ability to use as many arguments independently from the base class. Scripted typedefs now support extensions and field syntaxes that match the hex language. Let's take this typedef as an example. In previous versions, Polymod could only parse basic fields, and if you tried to add extensions or optional fields, the parser would fail to recognize them, but now you can use this hex standard syntaxes in typedefs. Finally, default function arguments no longer get ignored when calling the function without them. In previous versions, calling your function foo without arguments would ignore the default argument, however now it is no longer the case and our default arguments won't get skipped. Additionally, providing an insufficient amount of required arguments throws an error when previously it did not. And that's all for now. Thank you for watching and don't forget to comment sunflower emoji if you have watched this far. Peace.